AM 1430 KRGI, 105.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Brian Gallagher. This is Community Connection. Thursdays, we turn our focus to education here on behalf of Grand Island Public Schools. Superintendent Matt Fisher to talk about things that have come up in discussion recently in regards to facilities and the future. Hi.
Morning, Brian.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this because it's something that is consistently on the minds of your administration. It's consistently on the minds of residents, especially if they have been here for any length of time, because Grand Island has grown, the school system has grown, which means the need for more buildings and bigger buildings is growing as we speak, and that's one of the things that you're working on right now.
Yeah, I think we've really tried to do some forward thinking as far as what does the future of Grand Island Public Schools look like in terms of looking at the next 5 to 10 years and looking at the 10 to 25 year range and then really looking beyond 25 years. What are going to be the needs that the district has for facilities?
Thinking back, I moved here in 1980, and I think if I remember right, Grand Island was in the 30,000, 35,000 range, something like that. So now with the growth continuing, and we have eclipsed 50,000 in this region. Now, it's taken a little time to get there, but when you start taking a look at what's next, there are some studies and projections that indicate these numbers can grow dramatically, but realistically, too. Yeah,
the city just got through doing a study with the County Planning Commission and really brought in some outside experts to do a population study. And that study indicates that in the next 25 years, Grand Island should grow on the low side at least 7,000 more residents, and on the high side, 20,000 plus. So again, when you start thinking about that and what does that mean in terms of the number of students who are going to be attending our schools, all of a sudden we have to start making some plans for, significantly more students than what we have today.
You have a large number of elementary schools. The number of middle schools has remained relatively the same, but they have literally grown in their footprint. But one thing that hasn't changed is you still have one senior high.
Yeah. We do, and obviously, we went from 2 middle schools to 3 middle schools, in the last 30 years. So there's definitely been growth there, and actually our middle schools are the place where we are the most crowded right now. If we were going to say what is our greatest need for space at this point in time, it is at the middle school level. And so, we fortunately, when Westridge was built, there was a plan for Westridge to be expanded. So, we've got the capacity to do some things there. But like you said, we've continued to add on to the high school, and we've, got the academy structure now that does allow us to have students, in some different locations, but we still are, a one high school community. And I think that's, as we look at the next 25 years and another, potentially 20,000 people in Grand Island, when is the time, or is there a time that, we think about as second high school?
The other thing that will have to be thought about, too, is do you add another elementary? Do you add, when is the point where you have to say we need to have this? And then as you do that, folks will think about the new schools that have either been rebuilt or remodeled over the last 15 to 20 to 30 years. And it can be tough at times to separate which ones are new, but realizing that these are all necessary.
Right. Again, it's hard to think about it, but it's been 10 years ago that they passed the bond to renovate a number of our elementary buildings and rebuild, Stawley and Jefferson and Star were all rebuilt. And so the buildings that we have at the elementary level, for the most part, are really good, solid buildings that are going to serve us for many years to come. The one building that really hasn't had any renovation and probably is going to be a project at some time in the not too distant future would be Gates. But then again, you think about that growth and where is that growth going to happen? And right now, you look at the southwest part of town, down around the new hospital, and there is a lot of housing going in down in that area. And we have no schools in that area whatsoever. So at some point in time, if that growth continues, there's probably going to be a need to think about locating an elementary building down in that part of town. You think about the Good Life District up on the north end of town. Nothing has happened there yet, but dollars are being collected, and there will be funding to do some significant building in that area, and that includes enough housing that would be another place where we would have to be thinking about locating an elementary building potentially somewhere in the future.
I think I can hear wheels turning right now for everyone that's listening, because they're thinking, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so I'll try to throw some questions that can perhaps at least address some of these potential questions that are out there. One would be land. I mean, where are the real growth possibilities, but also is there land either belonging to the school now or available for purchase?
Well, again, I think going back to the Good Life District, one of the good things about that development is there is land earmarked for a school in that development. So I think we're in a good place there. But we think about that area in the southwest part of town. We don't have anything out there, and so really before everything fills up, I think one of the things that we really need to be thinking about is a land purchase out in that part of the community. Again, not knowing when or if it's going to happen for sure, but again, I think buying a land for the school district is no different than as an individual. It's an investment. We can buy it, we can rent it until we're ready to use it, and then if we decide we're never going to use it, we can turn around and sell it. So, buying land doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do anything, but I think it is a prudent idea for us to think about maybe securing something before everything fills up.
Do you run into boundary issues in regards to the Northwest School District?
Well, obviously, anything that we do outside of, the part of the city of Grand Island that has been annexed into the city is basically moving into the Northwest District. And, obviously that's having been on both sides of this coin, that's as the city annexes property and it becomes part of Grand Island Public Schools rather than being Northwest, that's valuation that they're losing. And so that's always a source of, contention. But I think the growth is inevitable. I think, part of what we would want to do, certainly as we make any future plans, is to have discussion with Northwest about what their future plans are as well. So I think it's a pretty big topic when you start thinking about, well, what will Grand Island look like 25 years from now? And certainly I think when 50 years ago, 60 years ago when Northwest was built, I don't think they ever expected the city to grow to the size that it has.
Matt Fisher, former superintendent of Northwest and current superintendent for Grand Island Public Schools, so he has seen both sides and been involved in the discussions thereof. There are also a couple of buildings that are either underutilized or unutilized, and one would be Seedling Mile School, which came off the active building roster here recently. Is there a plan yet for whatever's next for that building in regards to its future rather than the school's future?
Well, I'd love to tell you, yes, we've got this hard and fast plan, but unfortunately, we're still, we've kept the building. It's a good building. It's, it's something that we think we will be able to utilize for some different programming at some point in time. We've considered the possibility of maybe working with someone to put a daycare there. We've also talked about doing some regional programming that we could work with the ESUs in the area to put together there to serve some needs that don't exist in the area. But we don't have anything that's hard and fast in terms of the plans there, and again, the unfortunate thing with that building is just in a part of the community that's not growing. And, we were at a point where we just didn't have the students to continue to feel like we could commit the staff to being there. As we, if we struggled with staff, we've had to be as efficient as possible with staff, and that wasn't the most efficient use of our staff. So hopefully we'll come up with a plan for utilizing that.
And then the principal building has some utilization, but there's a lot of building there.
Yeah, it is. I would say right now we're utilizing pretty much the ground level. We've got our Success Academy there, so we are, educating 100+ students a day there. Obviously, we've been using it for girls wrestling since we've had it. We do run a lot of our meetings there. We've got some other parts of our operation that are housed there, an office there. But as far as being fully utilized, we're not. And again, when we think about the high school and the future there, that building, I think, was purchased with the intent that, some of the high school programming was going to move there. And certainly that would be an option, but there's a pretty hefty price tag attached to getting it to where it would really need to be fully functional for us as a building, and do we spend $40 million there? Is that the best use of our money? That's one of the questions we're wrestling with is, do we invest in that building and continue down the one high school path for the foreseeable future, or do we need to hang on to the money and think about investing in other areas? Certainly the Career Pathways Institute building is another building that could be expanded and potentially maybe build into a technical high school where we were doing full day operations and had some of our students there at least throughout the day. So there's a lot of different ideas that are out there, and certainly that's one of the things that we're sharing information with the community right now because we want community feedback.
I think you're going to get plenty. So I think when it comes to this, and especially trying to plan for the future, our kids' future, but maybe their kids' future, and that is the responsibility that is out there. So this is a discussion that will go on and on and on, but I think you guys have done a great job so far, but the work's far from over. So keep us updated.
We certainly will.
Matt Fisher from Grand Island Public Schools. Good morning from AM 1430 KRGI 105.5 FM.